Have you ever noticed how crowded your life gets when things are going great? People laugh with you, celebrate you, and proudly call themselves your friends. But what happens when the music stops? When a dream shatters, or your world completely falls apart? That is the exact moment you realize a brutal truth most people spend their entire lives ignoring. Not everyone who walks with you is truly walking for you. Today, we are diving into the story of Leo, a young man who had to lose a massive business empire, a luxury mansion, and every single one of his friends just to learn what true wealth actually means. But here is why you need to stay until the very end of this video. Nestled deep within Leo's story is a shocking, hidden secret that his quietest childhood friend kept for years. When that secret is finally revealed at the climax, it will completely change the way you look at the people around you right now. If you've ever felt lonely in a crowded room, or wondered who would actually show up for you in a storm, this story is for you. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Sunshine Friends. Have you ever noticed how crowded the room gets when your life is filled with sunshine? When you are happy, successful, and everything moves perfectly, people flock to your side. They laugh at your jokes, they celebrate your victories, and they proudly call themselves your friends. In the bright light of success, it feels like the whole world is on your team. But life is a shifting tide. It does not always stay the same. There are darker days waiting on the horizon. Days when your dreams break into pieces, when your carefully built plans fail, and when the heavy weight of the world makes you look around for a supportive hand. It is during those difficult moments that a quiet, painful truth is finally revealed. A truth that we so often choose to ignore. Not everyone who walks with you is truly walking for you. Sometimes, the person we look past, the one we consider too simple or too quiet, is the very soul who cares about us the most. This is the story of a young man named Leo. He was someone who had to lose almost everything before he could understand the real value of a true friend. Chapter 2. The Dreamer and the Keeper. Leo grew up in a small, peaceful village. It was a beautiful place, surrounded by wide green fields and quiet, dusty roads where time seemed to move slowly. But Leo's heart did not belong to the village. He was a dreamer. Even as a young boy, he would stand at the edge of the fields, looking out toward the distant horizon where the city lights painted the night sky. He imagined a much bigger life for himself. Leo wanted immense success. He wanted deep respect. He wanted the entire world to know his name. Yet, while his eyes were always fixed on the distant future, there was one person who always stood right beside him in the present. His name was Sam. Sam was Leo's childhood friend. They had grown up like brothers, playing under the same trees, studying at the same small desks, and sharing every minor joy and sorrow that life brought their way. But Sam was different from Leo. Sam was not rich, nor did he carry a burning desire for fame. He was a simple, grounded person who found complete happiness in a peaceful, quiet life. Whenever Leo spoke passionately about his grand ambitions, Sam would listen with absolute attention and respect. One evening, as they watched the sunset over the fields, Leo said proudly, "I am going to leave this village, Sam. I will go to the city and build an empire. Everyone will know exactly who I am." Sam smiled gently and replied, "I believe you can do it, Leo. I truly do. But just promise me one thing. Never forget the people who walked with you before you became successful." Leo let out a loud laugh. "Sam, you think too simply. In the city, I will meet incredibly smart, powerful, and successful people. They are the ones who will help me move forward." Sam did not argue. He only looked at his friend and said softly, "I hope you find good people, Leo." Chapter 3. The City Lights and the Empty Mansion. Not long after that conversation, Leo packed his bags, turned his back on the village, and moved to the bustling city. At first, reality hit him hard. Life in the city was brutal and cold. He worked exhausting, long hours and faced failure after failure. But Leo possessed a fierce, hard-working spirit. He refused to give up. Slowly, his relentless efforts began to pay off. He started a small business. Then, through sharp choices and dedication, it grew into a much larger enterprise. Years rolled by, and Leo transformed into an incredibly wealthy, successful businessman. He wore the finest, most expensive clothes. He lived in a magnificent, beautiful house that overlooked the city. People constantly looked up to him. And just as he had dreamed as a boy, a massive crowd of people suddenly wanted to be near him. Every single day, Leo met new faces. They praised his intelligence, invited him to exclusive events, and eagerly called him their closest companion. Leo's heart swelled with pride. He often thought to himself, I was right. Success naturally brings better, more valuable people into your life. But in his race to the top, Leo forgot something incredibly important. He forgot Sam. He forgot the one friend who had loved him and believed in him before anyone else even knew his name. As the years rushed past, Leo became busier and busier. He completely stopped calling the village. He stopped asking about his past. He allowed his old life to fade into a distant memory. Chapter 4. When the storm hits. Then, without warning, the winds changed. A devastating mistake occurred within Leo's business infrastructure. It wasn't a minor setback, it was a catastrophic failure. Almost overnight, his company began losing massive amounts of money. As the financial crisis deepened, Leo noticed a chilling change. The people who had spent months praising his genius suddenly began to disappear. The very same people who had laughed loudly at his dinner table and celebrated his victories were now nowhere to be found. Desperate and drowning in stress, Leo picked up his phone. He called his new friends, begging for advice or a temporary lifeline. The first one answered coldly. I'm so sorry, Leo. I'm incredibly busy right now. Good luck. Another sent a brief message. Terrible news. I hope things get better for you. Then, the phone went completely silent. No one came to see him. No one offered a helping hand. For the first time in many years, Leo sat entirely alone in his massive home. The high ceilings and grand rooms felt completely empty and cold. The grand success he had been so proud of suddenly felt utterly meaningless. He looked around the vacant mansion and realized a deeply painful truth. He had spent years surrounded by hundreds of people, but he didn't have a single soul standing beside him. That night, amidst the heavy silence of his ruined life, a face from the past flashed in his mind. He remembered Sam, the simple, quiet friend he had left behind in the dirt. Chapter 5. The Return to the Soil. The very next morning, driven by a deep ache in his chest, Leo decided to return to his village. After a long journey, he stepped out and walked down the old, familiar roads. The same ancient trees still lined the paths. The same green fields stretched out under the open sky. The village had not changed at all, but Leo was completely broken. When he finally reached Sam's modest home, he saw his old friend working peacefully in a small garden. Sam paused, wiped his brow, and looked up. A warm, bright smile instantly broke across his face. Leo, Sam called out, his voice filled with genuine joy. For a moment, Leo froze. A wave of deep embarrassment washed over him. He looked at his expensive, dusty shoes, suddenly not knowing what to say. Finally, forcing the words past a tight throat, he said, Sam, I came back to see you. Sam's smile never faded. I am so happy you came home, Leo. Leo looked at him, his eyes wide with utter surprise. You? You are not angry with me. Sam looked genuinely confused. Why on earth would I be angry with you? Leo lowered his eyes to the ground, the guilt weighing heavily on his shoulders. Because I completely forgot about you. For years, Sam. I didn't call. I didn't check on you. I ignored our friendship. Sam stayed quiet for a long moment, looking at his childhood companion. Then, he spoke with a softness that cut straight to Leo's heart. People sometimes get lost when they are chasing their big dreams, Leo. I always understood that. Those gentle words hurt Leo far more than any angry shout ever could. Sam wasn't blaming him. There was no resentment, no bitterness. There was only pure, unconditional kindness. Chapter 6. The Hidden Truth. They sat together on the old wooden porch, talking for hours as the sun began to set. Leo poured his heart out. He spoke of his grand rise, his sudden, crushing failure, and the terrifying loneliness that had followed. Finally, Leo asked the one burning question that had been echoing in his mind. Sam, when I was at the top, hundreds of people wanted to be near me. The moment I lost my money, they all vanished like ghosts. Why are you sitting here with me right now? Why did you stay? Sam smiled, looking out at the fields. Because my friendship was never connected to your success, Leo. When you left for the city, I didn't lose a friend. I simply waited for my friend to return. Tears filled Leo's eyes. But Sam wasn't finished. He looked at Leo intently and asked, Do you remember when your father fell terribly ill? Many years ago, right before you made it big. Leo nodded slowly. Yes, I remember. It was a dark time. During those months, Sam said quietly, your family was facing severe financial trouble. They couldn't afford the medicine. So, I quietly took care of the expenses. I made sure the bills were paid. I never told you back then, because I didn't want you to feel burdened, and I certainly didn't want anything in return. Leo sat there, completely shocked. You? You did that for my family. And you never said a word? Sam simply nodded. It wasn't a big deal, Leo. That is just what friends do for each other. At that exact moment, the veil lifted from Leo's eyes. He finally understood the profound difference between real and fake connections. Fake friends love your position. True friends love your heart. Fake friends love to celebrate your victories. True friends show up to stand with you during your deepest struggles. Chapter 7. The True Definition of Wealth. Leo spent the next few months staying close to the village, slowly gathering the strength to rebuild his life from scratch. But this time, his mind operated on a completely different frequency. He no longer tried to impress the crowd. He no longer measured a person's worth by the thickness of their wallet, the brand of their clothes, or the height of their social status. Instead, he began to value the rare currencies of kindness, loyalty, and quiet honesty. Eventually, Leo returned to the business world. One afternoon, a young intern working under him made a massive, costly mistake on a project. Immediately, the other managers and supervisors began to yell, pointing fingers and demanding the young man be fired. But Leo stood up and raised his hand, silencing the room. He walked over to the trembling young man, placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, and said to the room, Everyone makes mistakes. A person's ultimate value is not decided by one bad moment. Later that evening, the grateful young man approached Leo privately. Sir, why did you protect me? Everyone else wanted me gone. Leo smiled warmly, a distant look in his eyes. Because someone once extended absolute grace to me when I needed it the most. Chapter 8. The Golden Lesson. Years passed, and through wisdom and steady persistence, Leo became highly successful once again. But this time, his life looked entirely different. The glittering, superficial crowds were gone. He kept his circle small. He had fewer people around his table, but every single one of them was real. And right at the center of his life, Sam remained his closest, truest friend. Leo had finally mastered the profound lesson that life had tried so hard to teach him. A true friend is not someone who only appears when your sun is shining brightly. A true friend is the rare soul who stays firmly by your side when the violent storm arrives. You do not need hundreds of acquaintances who merely know your name. You only need a precious few who truly understand your heart. Because as you walk through this life, many people will gladly walk beside you when the road is smooth, flat, and easy. But the rare individuals who reach out and firmly hold your hand when the road becomes steep, rocky, and dark, those are the people you must hold on to with all your might. So, look around you today. Value your true friends. Respect and honor the quiet ones who support you completely without expecting a single thing in return. And always remember, a good friend does not promise to make your life perfect. A good friend simply ensures that you will never have to face an imperfect life alone. Final thoughts. Leo's story teaches us a lesson that many of us learn too late. A true friend is not someone who only appears when your sun is shining brightly. A true friend is the rare soul who stays firmly by your side when the violent storm arrives. You do not need hundreds of acquaintances who merely know your name. You only need a precious few who truly understand your heart. Because as you walk through this life, many people will gladly walk beside you when the road is smooth and easy. But the rare individuals who reach out and firmly hold your hand when the road becomes steep and dark, those are the people you should never lose. If Leo and Sam's story touched your heart today, please give this video a like so it can reach more people who might be feeling lonely right now. Take a moment to look at your own life. Do you have a Sam in your circle? If someone popped into your mind while watching this, take this as a sign to send them a message. Today, just to say thank you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, so you never miss our upcoming stories on life, wisdom, and human connection. Remember, a good friend does not promise to make your life perfect. A good friend simply ensures that you will never have to face an imperfect life alone. Thank you for watching until the very end. Stay kind, stay true, and I will see you in the next story.